So, you just finished the book Extra Lives.
Which you read probably 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a couple-year-old book, but I finally decided to give it a shot because I've been going nuts on my e-reader recently.
Can you remember the name of the author?
Tom Bissell.
Tom Bissell?
The name of the author.
Okay.
And he's a total nerd sort of author. I haven't read anything else he's ever done, but I guess he's held in pretty high regard for some of his, I think both fiction and nonfiction books. But you can tell this guy really loves playing video games. They've been a huge part of his life, both good and bad. But it's just this quality book where he takes essentially one game per chapter and sort of talks about likes, dislikes, you know, strength, weaknesses of each of those games. And the point of this book is basically treating games as if they matter. You know?
Yeah, that's the subtitle of the book, is Why Video Games Matter.
You know, it's definitely a response to, you know, Roger Ebert and people who don't believe that video games can be art.
Yeah.
And he does, it's not a total, you know, love letter to video games, because he does say that, yes, they have problems.
He debates it, yeah, he debates it on his own, each game on its own merit.
Sure.
I think his most fascinating argument is that a game by nature is presenting you with difficulty, which completely is at odds with its use as a storytelling device. It is trying to stop you from completing the story, and you know, a good game, if it's just ushering you through that, like a lot of games have more recently, is you know, it usually receives criticism for that. So.
And I think part of his argument for why video games matter is that they should not be compared to movies and books, because it's a totally different medium for telling a story, and because it's one of those things, like you said, where you have a particular way you play the game, and the fact that the game is trying to, you know, be difficult and challenging, it doesn't have the same narrative flow as a book or a movie.
It's like Flower and Journey don't have proper stories, but not as you really recognize them. Maybe very abstract. You played all the way through Flower, right?
Well, no, I've played bits and pieces because I don't have a PlayStation.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
And he actually, Tom Bissell brings up Flower
in
this, and
Santa Monica guy.
Somebody coined the phrase, and I can't remember if it was Tom or not. He might have written a review for the game, but he coined the term Zen game, where it doesn't have this, you know, it does have a story in the fact that you're progressing through dreams and getting progressively darker and whatever, but it's one of those things where, you know, you're not platforming and you're not role-playing, and, you know, it's this sort of new sort of game type where it's just you're progressing through this world and, you know, picking up flower petals, and it's been a while since I played it, so I don't quite recall, but
I think a game like Shadow of the Colossus is an excellent example of a story told through a game. It's just surprisingly minimalist. There's zero dialogue, or maybe there's some. There's like a big monster talking to you, but it's all through subtitles. It's all in some other earthly language, and you know, there's just basically you just run around in this beautiful landscape, finding these giant monsters to kill, and it's very elegant, and you know, it's like you're doing the whole thing to save your girlfriend. It's kind of like if Legend of Zelda went to art school, you know. It's like, but it's a very similar formula. Obviously, the big thing about that game is the monsters themselves are basically the levels. You crawl around on them and you scale them in different ways. To attack them.
Sounds like God of War sort of borrowed some of that stuff.
Very much so, just the titanic level of the enemies that you encounter.
Right. Well, I don't know if you remember, I think it was God of War 2, where you're crawling, basically an entire world is the back of this monster roaming through the desert.
Yeah, I can't remember. Oh yeah, you do that in 2. There's I think it's the Titan Kronos.
Right, there you go.
And, and I think you encounter him again in 3, and it's grotesque. There's like a part where like you tear off his fingernail and shit with Kratos' demigod strength, and it's very disturbing. I didn't finish 3.
And going back to Tom Bissell, he actually talks about Kratos a little bit. I don't think there was a whole God of War chapter, but basically saying that Kratos is sort of a new type of hero, and the fact that he's completely flawed, He's sort of an asshole. I mean, he's this just before his wife and children or whatever are killed. He's having orgies and
he's a prick.
He's just this guy who's just
not a good guy. He's like a Tony Soprano,
right?
You're rooting for him, but you're not sure why,
right?
Because he's a monstrous asshole,
right?
But he's just very charismatic, and he's got that going for him.
Sure.
Plus, he's strong as shit.
Right.
He's knocking over giant pillars all the time.
One interesting thing before we close on Extra Lives is I thought it was really interesting how he sort of talks about why video games seem still sort of stunted right now.
Mm.
When you think about it, how long did it take for movies to become art?
Yeah, well, I mean, they were ignored as it for such a long time.
We're still in the infancy of video games.
Mm-hmm.
Good video games have only really been around since, NES was released in '85.
Yeah, I mean, if you think of Super Mario Brothers or Legend of Zelda as like the first good video games, and the first video games that really started in some mild attempt to employ a story, Mario and Zelda are both saving a princess.
Right.
You have to take into consideration that yes, as a storytelling medium and as an art form, it's a baby.
Pretty new.
Yeah. So
and it took a long time for movies and TVs to reach that point too. So
I honestly don't think you could have considered TV an art form until like the last 10 or 15 years.
There were the occasional, not picket fences, but
Twin Peaks. Yeah.
And I'm sure there were shows before that. There was a little before my time.
You could debate that the original Star Trek is a piece of art. I don't know.
there were the episodes here and there that I think really sort of transcended what was going on at the time. But then there were also some really shitty episodes.
Is Bonanza a piece of art?
It's a rawhide.
Yeah, rawhide. No, I think I don't know if you haven't read it. It's gotten a lot of buzz more recently too. The indoor kids have been talking about it a lot. It's an excellent book. It's very eye-opening. He's very critical though of games.
Sure.
And
I think rightly so.
Yeah. He really kind of has their number. Tell me about the news involving the Andromeda galaxy.
So there was some big news. We've known for a long time that the Milky Way galaxy and the Andromeda galaxy are on a collision course. I don't know how long it's been known that that's the fact, but what we didn't know is when that was going to happen and what it was going to look like, whether it was going to be a glancing blow, head-on collision, or, a near miss. It was just one of those things that we knew that they were going to eventually sort of coalesce into one combined huge galaxy. Right now, I think it's 2.5 million light years away, so you can barely see the galactic center with your naked eye. But it's one of those things that you can't see the individual arms because it's still too far away. And if you could, it would be 6 times wider than the full moon in the night sky, which is impressive.
Shit.
And it's 2.5 million light years away.
Yeah.
Now the Andromeda galaxy is massive. It's bigger than the Milky Way, and the Milky Way on the scale of galaxies that we know of is relatively large.
Oh, okay.
But I think there are twice as many stars in the Andromeda galaxy as there are in the Milky Way.
Wow.
It's about half again as wide as the Milky Way, so it's a heavy hitter.
Wow.
And what the Hubble discovered this week after a long survey is that it's basically going to be a head-on collision. Now, the stars are going to basically pass by each other because there's just so much open space in the galaxies. But what's going to happen is, as they get nearer to each other, there's going to be sort of a near miss, where they kind of swing around each other, and then it's going to be...
How would that affect like gravimetric fields?
Well, what it's going to do is it's going to fling some stars out.
Oh shit!
Where they're just entire solar systems are going to be ejected from the galaxy, and obviously, we don't know all the little intricacies of what's going to happen.
Yeah, what happens to a solar system? I assume it's celestial bodies are all,
and it's going to disrupt a lot of things. Depending on how closely things come to each other, but they don't. There's just so much open space that if there's going to be any sort of collisions between stars, it's not going to be on a widespread scale.
Sounds like something from Doctor Who.
Right.
It's just like other planets passing by each other.
And so it's going to eject, a lot of stars out, just based on, because there are supermassive black holes in the center of each of our galaxies, and eventually those will coalesce probably as they sort of move in and out. And it's going to be one of these things where there's a dance, a gravitational dance between the two, where they're going to swing around and then kind of head through and then, you know, do this crazy dance. And eventually it's going to become one galaxy, a giant elliptical galaxy. So it'll be this, we're both right now are just these spiral arm galaxies, and it's just going to become this huge, massive elliptical galaxy.
Damn.
And it's going to be, I think, 4 to 6 billion years from now.
I was going to ask what the time frame was on this.
It's really, really far down.
Will our sun have burnt out by then?
It'll be probably a red giant at that point.
Okay.
So the Earth will most likely either be pushed out by the loss of mass of our sun, or it'll be swallowed by our sun, depending on how quickly it expands or how much mass it loses in its swelling phase.
Okay.
But I mean, there will be no life on Earth at that point because whether it's swallowed or pushed out, it'll still be vaporized. Or the oceans will be vaporized. The atmosphere will be blown away by just the heat of our sun getting closer to it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Way down the line, and the sun will be near its end point at that point.
Hopefully, our species will have made it off world by then. That's something that bums me out.
Yeah.
So.
Though, as we discover more and more exoplanets, and moons that possibly have water and things, like they think that either a moon might be the most likely landing point for humans if we ever get to that point, or some close-in orbiting planet to a red dwarf, because it's hard to find a sun, or I should say a star that's like our sun, with a planet in the habitable zone. It really limits the options, but if you start including lower mass, cooler stars, it really opens up.
Is terraforming an like actual realistic option?
Could be.
Could you
not right now.
oxygenate an atmosphere?
You could. It would take a lot of resources, a lot of money.
Yeah.
They've obviously looked into it with Mars.
Yeah.
Obviously, that technology is, I think they say at least 200 years off right now. But it's one of those things that Mars at one point most likely had an atmosphere, had water that got blasted away because it's a small planet, so it cooled. It lost its volcanism. It's just not a very big planet, so it's hard for it to hold an atmosphere. So if you create one, it'll eventually degrade again, unless you keep terraforming it. So you're just constantly maintaining this atmosphere.
In the meantime, we'll just use science to keep making cheaper hamburgers for everybody.
And bunches of plastic.
Yes. Well, speaking of space, Mass Effect had some new DLC this week.
Space and aliens.
Space and aliens. Hot blue babes.
Yeah, and it's pretty good. The new maps are fun.
I haven't unlocked a single item, though, of the weapons or the classes. I guess we should give a quick rundown of the multiplayer for the uninitiated. Mass Effect multiplayer.
For Mass Effect 3.
Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, excuse me. Basically, it's a horde mode, as seen in games like Gears of War, where you and 3 other players face off against 10 or 11 waves of enemies of 3 different variety. And with intermittent missions thrown in, so like you got to pick up a package, or you got to hold a specific location, or you got to what's the other?
Deactivate some 4 different spots on the map.
Yeah, or kill a couple of enemies of a certain type. It's fun. It's very addictive,
which is weird because it's so repetitive.
Hugely repetitive.
But my wife the other day said, I don't understand why you keep playing this, because it's the same thing over and over.
Neither do I.
And I can't figure it out either, but it's really fun, because I think there's so much variety in weapon types, your playable characters. I mean, what are there, like...
There's something now...
22 different options or something
at
like
least.
that. Yeah.
Well, there's 6 different classes with now 6 different options within them.
So you're 36.
Yeah. So, and just the different ways you can build each character, and being able to build them over and over again. Plus playing with your friends.
Yeah.
That's the best part of it.
And the game's been out for almost 3 months now, and there's still a really active multiplayer presence, which is really nice. I mean, so it's not just us who thinks that, oh, this game is really fun, because we're huge Mass Effect nerds.
And it seems to be the popular consensus.
I've read all of the Mass Effect books, including the most recent one.
Yeah.
It's a pile of shit.
Back to the Rebellion multiplayer. I haven't unlocked a single item from it. I've played on the maps, but the way in which you unlock content in Mass Effect 3 is basically through a lottery system. You buy a package that contains 5 to 7 random items, and I've only been unlocking shit that's been out since the original game launched.
And things that you've already doubled up on.
And things that I've already doubled up on.
Your maxed out characters are now super maxed out.
They're extra maxed out.
Yeah.
I've got all the customization options. I can customize their skin tone, the lights on their costume, their
Janet Jackson nipple cover.
Yeah, their Janet Jackson's star nipple thing. What the fuck?
There's a 10-year-old reference for you guys.
Yeah, sorry.
8 years old.
Sorry, people who didn't watch the Super Bowl 10 years ago. You're out of the loop. But I haven't unlocked any of this new material, which bums me out because it looks like a lot of fun.
Sure, and I've only unlocked 2 right now. I've unlocked the Rieger carbine shotgun.
It's like a big lightning flash shotgun.
It's actually really fun,
mm-hmm.
and it does some pretty good damage against particular elements of an enemy, like the shield and the health. But and then I've unlocked the male Quarian infiltrator,
mm-hmm.
which is actually, he's a pretty interesting class.
Yeah, well, he's got some new abilities that we haven't seen at all yet. Like you can highlight an enemy throughout the entire map, and you can see him from any point on the map.
It slows down his movement, and I guess you deliver extra damage as well, which is kind of cool. But that's all I've unlocked, and I've bought probably 10 packs.
And I mean, this has only been out since Tuesday, but we play this game a lot.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate that we haven't had the opportunity to play with more of the gear.
And meanwhile, we're running into guys who are running with the most overpowered piece of machinery in the game, in this
the new sniper rifle.
Crise, I can't remember exactly what it is, sniper rifle that is this deadly accurate explosive shotgun. Or, sorry, sniper rifle. And I've played against, I think, 3 or 4 people with this thing, and every time they double up the amount of kills and experience as the second closest guy.
Well, I read the description of it, and the description is basically something to the effect of, it's remarkably easy to use, and it's the most damaging piece of weaponry.
It's basically like having a rocket launcher or sniper rifle.
Yeah, and it's not a competitive game. There's sort of a competitive nature to it, because you break down the score by player, you see who's responsible for the most kills or the most points.
But you all end up with that experience.
Exactly. So, I mean, you all benefit from it.
Right.
So, but no, Mass Effect still lots of fun. I love the Rebellion DLC. I want to play more of it.
Yeah.
So give me some of that shit.
Stuff,
Give me. I don't want to spend any more money on
biotic whips.
I want biotic whips, but I don't want to spend real world money on them. I just want to get them from playing.
I've spent more money than I care to admit.
Me too. I had to finally just stop myself. I had to say, it's like. As soon as I realized that when I saw that EA had done the same thing with Battlefield, because I played that too a little bit, when I saw that you could unlock all of your kits for a mere $15 or something, I was like, oh fuck those guys, man! I love Mass Effect. I want to play more of it, and I wouldn't mind spending more money to play it, but they're just nickel and diming me, and it's hurting, and my wife hates it. So.
And I am shocked that both of the DLC expansion packs, the multiplayer expansion packs, have been free.
Do you think that's in response to the negative press?
I do think that is a direct result. I don't know that for a fact, but
speculation.
I actually think it's pretty great.
I agree.
So is either BioWare or EA saying, we understand that there's some consternation about the ending, we're going to try to make this right.
Yeah.
And then there's an expanded ending coming out here in the summer. Maybe, I haven't heard a release date, but I'm thinking July.
I'm thinking July or August, yeah. I don't know. Honestly, though, it's got terrible reviews on Amazon. Yeah. Mostly, I think, just popular opinion concerning the ending, but it's a great game.
Yeah.
Pick it up, because it's cheap now, and play online with us.
It's fun.
It's big fun. All right, I think that brings us...
we should put our Xbox Live usernames.
I'd be happy to do that. We'll put them down in the tag below. Because it'll be on YouTube at some point.
Maybe it'll be over here.
Yeah. Yep. It'll be right here. All right. Finally, let's see. I want to give a shout out to a very special member of the Xbox Live community. This is a person with whom I played a single round of Mass Effect 3 multiplayer.
And you gave him a frowny face.
I gave him a frowny face, I'm sad to say. This individual stood in one spot for the entire game, not providing a single ounce of support. The launch zone in which we originated, just never suffered his absence until the extraction point, where you lose points if not everybody is in the same zone. He decided to book it across the map, promptly died, giving us no opportunity to save him. So, Mac9476, you're the Xbox Live shithead of the week.
And we have run into many of these sort of what I've started calling experience campers.
Yeah.
Where they have no interest in playing the game, yet somehow care about how many players and weapons and things that they unlock.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you care about playing online if you're just going to sit there and do nothing?
It makes no sense. I don't know, but we love the game. We're hoping that the Andromeda galaxy doesn't crush us. And read Extra Lives. It's a great book. If you like video games, if you're a nerd in general, it'll make you feel good about how you spend your time.
And you might want to do some cocaine.
You'll probably want to do some cocaine.
And play some Grand Theft Auto 4.
Oh, well. And next week we'll probably talk about some more Star Trek, because we're big old Star Trek nerds.
And we might talk about some Alien 3.
Some Alien 3. And you know what? At that point we'll have seen Prometheus.
Yep.
So we'll either be elated or crestfallen.
Yeah.
So, anyway, thanks for joining us. Grab your beer, Phil.
Let's clink this shit.
This is the IP address.